Anyway, so as a small introduction, Aditya is a senior front-end engineer at Hypersonics, and he is, well, believe it, a self-taught developer who is very passionate about Angular, React, and Node. And he spends most of his time working on his side projects, which I think I'll let you tell everybody about them, and writing a lot of blogs. And he has particular space in his heart for TypeScript as well. So he's going to talk all about that today. So with that, Aditya, I think I'll leave the stage to you and take it away. All the best.
Thank you. Yep. So today I'm going to talk about directives in Angular. So we have a lot of features that are provided by Angular, like we have components, directives, and services and things like that. So, but we're going to concentrate on the part that is very important, that is directives. And actually, Digvijay already gave an introduction about myself. So I work at Hypersonics, and we are an AI company, and there are a lot of hiring going on. So do check out our website or just ping me on Twitter if you want to know about them. And here are some of the links to my website and stuff. Always feel free to connect with me. And let's get into the talk. So we are going to talk about directives. So let's first see what a directive is. So a directive in Angular is just a class. So we have classes in JavaScript from ES6. So a directive is just a class that can be used to add additional behavior to your Angular application. Okay. So, and there are different types of directives that are provided by Angular. So components are actually directives. So components are building blocks of Angular. So component is a directive that has a template. So we can provide HTML, and that will be rendered on the screen. Next up, we have attribute directives. These directives are used for changing the behavior of the element or the appearance. You can just slightly add styles or maybe listen to events and stuff. And then we have structural directives. These directives are used for manipulating the DOM directly. So you can actually remove or add elements into the DOM directly. So that means you're basically changing the structure of the DOM, and hence the name structural directives. So these are the basic directives that are there in Angular. And always keep in mind that directive is just a class. It is nothing fancy. And in Angular, there are few built-in directives that are provided. So we have attribute directives that are provided. First one, we all of us have used this quite often, ng class. Then we have ng style. Then we have ng model. I'm not gonna go into each of them because we have time constraints. Then we have structural directives. In structural directives, we have always used ngIf to conditionally render items. Then we have ng-for if you want to render a list, and then we have ng-switch case, similar to the normal switch. So these are some directives that are out of the box available in Angular. But what we are going to do, or what we are going to look at today, is building our own directives. So here are some of the possibilities that you get when you actually create a directive. So you inside a directive, you can actually get the access to the native element where the directive is placed on. So if you get access to the native element, we can do a lot of stuff just on that. We can get access to the template reference. So if you are using ng template, and if you want to get access to that, we can place a directive and then get access to that. Another thing is that if we want to listen to any events that are occurring on the host, that is also possible in directive. And another thing is that we can also use for input validations, we can use directives. So if you want some complex logic or complex validation on your input field, instead of dumping in all in the component, you can just create a directive for that and let the directive take care of it. And the question arises, why we actually have to do that? Why not add the logic inside the components? So here are some of the benefits that we get if we are using directives instead of putting everything in the component. So first of all, directives, it will be reusable. So you write a directive which has a particular behavior, and if you want to if you have the same behavior in multiple parts of your application, you don't have to write the logic again and again. You just reuse the directive. Again, maintainability. So since we are writing it in a separate part of the application, it will always be maintainable. We have more control, and it is in a separate file. That means you have more control, and you can easily maintain that. So when again, testability, that goes in hand with maintainability and reusability. So we have to write the logic once, then we just have to test it once, and that's all. We don't have to keep testing the logic multiple times. And one of the biggest benefit that I see is that components should always be lean. They should not have all the logic inside. You should have components that are as lean as possible. So as if you start using directives and then you extract out some of the behaviors into the directive, the components would be much cleaner. It would only contain the business logic like it should. So these are some of the benefits that you actually get when you're using directives. And the main idea of this talk is not to help you create directives or how you can create directives. Mainly it is to show some of the logic that we write in components. Whenever we think about writing it in components, we can just step back and think whether that can be extracted into a directive or not. So whenever you're writing a new feature or any new component, just think about the features that we are going to build and see if that can be extracted out of the component, so that the components will be leaner. And I've made a few directives that just to showcase some possibilities. So first up, we have a table sort directive. So sorting in a table is a very common thing. So all the tables that we see will have sorting. That is very common behavior. And how do we normally do sorting? We would write all the logic inside the HTML, listen to the click event, handle it, and all the things will be written in the component. But there is a neater way to do that. And if you have used Angular material, you will be familiar with how they have implemented sorting. And we are going to look at how to actually do this with the help of directives. So for this, we are actually going to create a directive as well as a component, just because we need to show that arrow mark, which field is currently sorted. And how this, we have two directives. So one will be a component, one will be a directive. And how it works is that on the table, we'll place the parent directive. And for each of the cell or the column, we'll place the head, sort header directive, just to tell that this particular column can be sorted. And all the sorting logic will be moved into the directive. Nothing will be on the component. And we will also see an interesting pattern that you can see, that you can get access to the parent from the child directive. Now let's look into the code. Let's see how things are. So this is how we create a directive. So first things is that you just create a class, then you decorate it with the directive decorator, and you pass in the selector. And in our case, we create a sorter, so that will be the parent directive. And next, what we do is we create variables for managing the state. So one is for getting which is the active sorted state and what is the direction of the current sort. We have a sort change event emitter. So this is what is emitted. I mean, the event will be emitted when we click on the cell. Then we have the main sorting logic. It is it's not doing much. What it is essentially doing is that it will check if the direction is null. That means initially the direction will be null. If the direction is null, we will first on the first click we will sort it ascending order. Then next time it will be sorting on descending order. Next time it will be going back to the null position. So it is just doing that and just emit the event here. So which column was sorted and what is the direction, so that we can use that information to change the array. And now we have the second, it's a component I said, right? Because we have to show that arrow mark, the direction. So we just use a component because we can add a template. So again, we have the selector here. Then we write a template. So in the template, we're not doing anything, nothing fancy. We're just adding a arrow mark, like you see here, a div which contains an arrow symbol, and a few classes, so that we can change the orientation of the arrow using CSS. And whatever is there in the cell, that will be placed here using ng content. we add some styles, basic styles. Again, it's straightforward. After that, what we do is we have an at input on the sort header. So where we place this sort header directive, we need to register that particular column, a unique identifier for the column. Next step, we add a host listener on the click event of that cell. So if somebody clicks on the cell, the host listener will, we get the event here. And what we do here is we just get access to the parent sorter. This is what I told, like the sort header will be placed as a child in the table, and then we can actually inject the parent directive inside. Using that, what we do is we just call the function on the parent and just pass what was the column that is clicked on. And now we can see how we actually place it on the HTML. So we have our table here, and then this will be the sorter directive. This will be the parent directive that we place. And you can see the child directives that are sort header. And we pass a ref so that there will be a unique identifier for the that particular cell. See here, like we have this reference, and we place a sort header. And now I'll give you a demo of how it works. So we have this simple table. So if we click on the item, you can see the arrow marks coming in. So first will be ascending, then it goes to descending, and then null. Same here. So we write this logic outside. We are writing everything outside the component. It is all placed inside a directive. And the benefit of is that for all the tables in the application, you can reuse this. You don't have to write the logic for sorting in each of the components. So this is one of the use cases, where you can actually extract out the logic from the component, making the component much cleaner. And it should only be considered considering the business logic. So this is one example. Next, we'll see full screen directive. So if you have a application or a dashboard, or where you see charts and tables and stuff, and if you want to see the charts in full screen, we can often add the logic for that. And in this case, we are actually going to write the logic for full screen in a directive. Again, nothing will be there in the component, and the component will be absolutely free. And this is how we create it. So first thing is that we have the attribute directive. We use an attribute directive. We also see one interesting pattern in this example as well. We can export the directive to be used in a template. So that example also, you can see this, see it in this particular use case. And all the state for the full screen directive is actually placed inside the directive. So again, everything is moved outside the component. That is the main idea behind using directives. So if we look into the code, again, same thing. We create a class, we have a selector. So I just place a selector, and there is this one interesting thing. You can see we can export that particular directive instance as a variable that can be used in the template, and I'll show you how it can be used. And the logic that is in written inside directive is not much. We just have a maximize subject to just let know if it is in maximize state or not. We get access to the element ref of the host component. There is this toggle function where we either call minimize or maximize based on the current state. In the maximize function, we are not doing much. We just first emit that it is in maximize state. Then what we do is we just add the class called full screen to the native element, and that's all. And here I'm using a third-party library that is just a wrapper around the full screen API of the browser. So we just request the browser to go full screen. And in minimize function, what we do is we just in the maximize subject, we send false, we remove the class, and then we exit out of the full screen mode. So this is all the logic that we need to have a full screen functionality. And this is how we'll use. So we'll have a class called full screen where the width and height is set to the full viewport. And then you can see we have placed the directive on the div, and this is what the export is about. So we can assign the actual directive into a variable so that we can use the functions inside. So you can see that I have expose, maximize, and minimize functions. So based on the click event, we can just call the buttons to go into full screen mode or minimize it. And to see the example, so we have a a card like here, and in this example I use the same button, but I just use an if condition to change the icons. So if I click on this, we go into full screen and we get the minimize button here. So this all the logic is outside the component. This component doesn't have to worry about whether it is showing in full screen mode or if it is showing in a card view. It just has to show the maybe a chart or table. So that is, we are separating the concern. We just need to be concerned about the chart or the data shown, and this is just an extra functionality that can easily be extracted out into a directive. Again, a very good use case for thinking about creating a directive. Next up, we'll move to one more directive, that is permission directive. So when we have role-based access control in applications, we can often people often use a lot of ng ifs to check if the user have permission to do this and do that. And then instead of doing that, we can actually write a directive and then implement all the logic inside the directive. So we have this card over here, and I'll show the example here. So in this case, we are going to use structural directives. So the other two directives that we have seen so far was attribute directives. And how do these two differ? When you look at a structural directive, you have that asterisk in front, like we have in for ngIf and ngFor. So same thing, we are going to build something very similar to a custom ngIf, we can say, because it checks some conditions, and then based on that only we'll render the component. So yeah, we display the content only if the user is authorized. And how we are going to implement this, that we are going to pass the feature and the permissions list, whether the user have the permission or not. And the directive will essentially validate if the user has the permission, and just allow, or it just shows the content if the user have permission. Again, it is just a class. We have a class, we decorate the class with our directive decorator, pass in our selector. Again, same thing, we have a few variables that are there for managing the state. So one is for just saving the logged in user details, one is for saving the user's permissions, and the feature variable is for just saving what feature we are actually validating. Then we have an input. We have two inputs actually. So one input is for getting the permission, or what is the required permission for viewing that particular component. And then we have another input that is for getting what feature are we validating. So two basic inputs are required to be passed into this directive. Then inside the directive, we just inject the template ref, the view container ref, and the auth service. Let's say auth service is what provides the current logged in user details, and view container ref and template ref is used for dynamically embedding the element into the view. And on the initialization, we just get the latest logged in user, and then we just assign it to the variable that we have declared. After that, this is the main function. We just have an update view function. What it does is it checks if the user has permission. If the user has permission, sorry, if the user has permission, we just create the view. That means the element will be placed in the DOM. If not, there will be no element in the DOM. And the has permission function is also a very simple function. We just check if there is logged in user. If not, we'll return false. Next up, we check what are the permissions the user currently has for this particular feature. And you can see this is how, let's say, the user's permission list will be. Let's say the user have product feature and he has all these permissions. So we just get these permission list. So in the feature permissions, we'll get the list of permissions. So this particular user have, let's say, all the permission, and just we check if the permission list contains the required permission. So it is very simple. We don't have anything to nothing much is done actually. This is a one-time thing. We create this directive once, we can use it throughout the application. And this is how we actually use it in the template. So we have a button. This is a view button. So if a person has a read permission, and this is actually belonging to the product feature. So product feature and the read permission. And you can see that we have two inputs, but I have passed it together. So this is another way to do this. So you can actually pass multiple inputs in the same directive. You don't have to add an extra at input parameter and then pass it. If you want to pass, let's say, feature, the only thing that you have to take care is that the name should be the directives selector name and the input name. So here it is feature. So just capitalize it and give it like this. So then you will be able to access this second parameter that is passed into the directive. To see the example, let's say we have this particular, maybe a e-commerce dashboard or something like that, and the admin is authorized to view, edit, and delete the item. If there is an let's say only maybe an editor or some other user who doesn't have all the permissions, so if he logs in, you can see that only the view permission is there. And we are not just hiding in hiding the buttons. These buttons are not present in the DOM at all. So you can see that the buttons are present in the DOM when the user is authorized. If it is an unauthorized user, we will not see the button. So again, all this logic can be written in component. Is nobody stopping you from writing it, but the thing is that this component doesn't have to worry about whether it has to show the button or not. What this component has to worry is just it has to show the proper image and the related buttons, and the other can be taken care by a directive. Because most of the cases, if we separate the concerns or separate the logic into smaller pieces, it will be maintainable. So as we see in the first benefits, right, it'll be much more maintainable. And last, I'll show another very small directive that is quite common. We see that quite often. Like if you have gone through Angular material, we have this directive called badge directive. So we have this badges. If you want to maybe show some unread email count or notification count, etc., we normally show this. Again, this can be a simple attribute directive. It can just append elements to the host element. So with this directive, what I'm trying to showcase is that we can actually create custom HTML elements and append it to the host element. We can even customize it to pass the options, like you can see medium, small, large, and the positions and stuff. Now let's look at the code. Again, a class and a selector. And one interesting fact about the selector is that if the selector is placed inside a square bracket, that means it is an attribute selector. And if it is not inside a square bracket, that means it is an element selector. So element selector we normally see in components, where we see app something, right? So that app something will not have the square bracket. So that is HTML element selector, and this is an attribute that is placed on an element. So we have few inputs, the badge content, the size, the position, variants and stuff. You can actually add a lot more. So if you don't want all of these, never mind to add all of them. Then we have a badge element. This is just to save the content, the HTML element. Now we inject the document and the element ref itself. And whenever the badge value changes, what we do is we call a function called update badge text. And this is the main function in this directive. So what it does is it will check if there is a badge element already. That means if it is not created, we create a badge element and pass the value. If there is already a badge element, we just have to update the text content. You just update it. Now, the interesting part here is how do we create that badge element? So you can see that we use the document.createElement method to create a span. So using this span, now we can add text content to the span. So we are creating a span element, adding a text into that span, and we can add a few classes. And after we add the classes and all the styling, what we do is we just call the append child method and on the host element, and then we pass the badge element. And this is for managing the position, just normal function. And you can see how this can be used. So we have a button here, and I pass badge equal to 2, and I can pass the position, let's say maybe bottom left. And this is how it will appear in the actual HTML. If you inspect the HTML, this button would be having an extra span element inside with the classes that we added and the text content that we have passed. So if we want to look at the example, so we have all these badges. If you inspect it, so you can see the button, our normal button, but if you open it, you can see that we have a span that is attached by the directive. So these are some of the examples that I have prepared for the slides, and you can actually go to this application. I created a small application where I'm trying to find possible use cases for using directives and then moving all the logic into the directive. So we have few examples that I've added. I'm planning to add more, and always contributions are welcome if you have more use cases. And you can that's all for my talk, and you can have the links. I will share the link to the slides as well, and here are some resources as well. And yeah, I think with that I'll wrap up the talk. Hope you guys enjoyed it.
Hi again, Aditya.
Hey.
Thank you so much for that insightful talk. While we were going through the talk, there were some questions coming in from our viewers. So let's go by them one by one, shall we?
Sure.
Brilliant. So Anubhav asks if we can add custom directives dynamically, like the previous session we were adding components dynamically.
I haven't actually experimented with it, but I don't think we can dynamically add directives at this point of time. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it is not possible right now.
Okay, well, that is something that we would have to look into, Anubhav.
Yes, yeah, even I have to look into it.
It's for everybody then in that case. Yeah. Another question that we have is by Pavitra. So is it possible to use icons from Angular Material or Bootstrap, etc., inside directives? And if you could just give an example about that.
You can actually do that, and even I actually created a npm package for using remix icons inside Angular. So basically you can have access to the SVGs, and then you can dynamically inject that SVG into the maybe a button or something like that. So it is absolutely possible, and there are, I think, a lot of examples that are there in npm as well. A lot of packages are already doing this same thing, so this is absolutely possible. Yeah, you can.
All right, well, I hope that answers your question, Pavitra. We have another question by Hemant. Hemant wants to ask if we can use reusable components for this badge or for different buttons, like an example that you showed.
Yes. Yeah. So the difference between directives and components is that components have an additional template property. So if you want to add extra items, you can always use components. But if you want, if you want to make it very lightweight, you can go for directives. But if you need some additional logic that requires more template, a big template, then you can obviously go for components. So it's not a problem. Yeah.
All right, well, let that get. I hope that answers your question, Hemant. And finally, Aditya, on a very lighter note, Joseph wants to know, alongside a compliment, how do you have this much knowledge?
I actually, dig a lot into the code bases of, Material or, other frameworks and stuff. So you actually get a lot of idea of how things can actually be done. Just going through the Angular Material, repository, right? There are a lot of amazing stuff, how they do things. It's actually just going through the code. You can get a lot of knowledge from that, just that. Yep.
Well, Joseph, there you have it. Now you know what you need to look into.
Yeah.
Anyway, so with that, that's all the questions we have, Aditya, for you at the moment.
Cool.
But of course, we would love to see you again towards the end of the event. So stick around and I'll see you again soon.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for
Brilliant.
giving this opportunity.
It
Thanks.
was a pleasure. It was our pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much.
Bye.
See you soon.